fun finds in downtown Chicago in less than 4 hours. Come along with me to see heaps of great sights on the ground, underground, and on historic Route 66, on the Chicago River, and on the Navy Pier that projects into Lake Michigan. Best part, we barely spent $65 for rail and river transportation and 2 yummy Chicago dogs. We arrived at Millennium Station at 10:55 a.m. and plan to depart on the 2:45 South Shore train. What can we accomplish in such a short period of time? I have a lot planned. Travel across America with me. Got less than 1 day to spend in the Windy City? Maybe on a layover or just want to test the waters? We spent a breakneck day in Chicago a few years back. After having such a great time, I was looking forward to going back just to walk around, grab a famous Chicago-style hot dog, and revisit a few parks with great art pieces. Downtown Chicago has some of the finest modern and old-world architecture cloistered together, providing a masterpiece-filled experience. As a matter of fact, there are river taxi architecture tours. Days and weeks could be spent visiting all the fine museums, historic sites, tourist attractions, and restaurants in this, the nation's 3rd largest city by population. Today, let's see what we can do for right at $65 in less than 4 hours. I think you will be surprised and have almost as good of a time as we did. And my armchair travelers, you won't spend a dime. As I mentioned earlier, we spent a full grand day in Chicago a few years ago. We took Amtrak from Milwaukee to Union Station and bought a city pass to see a handful of sites at a bargain price. I highly recommend buying a city pass in places like Chicago and Seattle. Both of these cities have amazing downtowns. They are filled with opportunities to visit many places in a close proximity. Both of these exciting cities are best reached via public transportation. Metra is the Chicago City train that is used by tourists and commuters. An all-day pass can be purchased for $7.50 and allows off and on at any station. What a bargain! But you have to go where it goes. The track is where the track is. For those of you who are not used to public transportation, there is definitely a learning curve and you must be prepared for surprises and delays. Plan B needs to always be in the back of your mind. Because we were staying in the northwestern area of Indiana, out in the country, as some of my kinfolks would say, our best option was the South Shore line. We decided to catch the train at the East Chicago, Indiana station. We planned an hour to reach the platform for the train, considering morning traffic northbound on Indianapolis Boulevard, barring any accidents and getting a parking space, which was unknown. Our plan was to catch the 10 a.m. train. We hit one hiccup. The entrance off Indianapolis Boulevard, which is the station's address, was barricaded. We had to make a U-turn and enter from Michigan Street. No big deal. There were lots of open parking places. Parking is totally free, so we haven't expended any money yet. The station is unmanned and clean. There was a screen with the schedule and several machines to purchase tickets. It was 9:35 a.m. and train 22 was scheduled for 10 a.m. Destination, Millennium Station, which is also the end of the line. At this time, tickets can be purchased with cash on board from the attendant. We bought 4 tickets, 2 for our trip to Millennium Station and 2 for our return later to the East Chicago Station. The cost was $28 and took less than 2 minutes. We took the stairs to the platform where only a few people were waiting. They appeared to be tourists just like us, looking to go have fun in Chicago. More people arrived as it got closer to 10. 10 a.m. came and went. Around 10:05, an announcement came over the speaker system to get behind the yellow line because the train was arriving. After a long 5 minutes, we could hear and see the train barreling toward the station. Be ready to board fast. They wait for no one. Within a minute, we were on board and on our way. Now for the ride, I purposefully sat on the right side, which would have a northern and eastern view as we travel. A few days earlier, we had toured the Pullman National Monument, the famous train car company. I caught a video as we passed by that park. I'll be doing a video on that national park unit at some point. I've got so much to share with you, my subscribers. If you aren't a subscriber yet, please subscribe. The pleasant train attendant passed through the train cars, punching ride tickets and confirming commuters' passes on their phones. She's got a pretty smile. We were passing through the southern quarter of Chicago that includes the famous University of Chicago and the Museum of Science and Industry. We had gone to those sites on the previous trip. I do want to return to the museum. Today, though, we are doing a less than 4-hour tour for under $65, remember? I do want to say we packed ice-cold water as our budget beverages and a couple protein bars in a backpack, just in case we needed them. We did. The train pulled underground and to a complete stop. It's 10:55. As this is the terminus, everyone had to disembark. We promptly followed the crowd of passengers northward. They must know where they're going, right? These are electric trains. The mechanism is astounding. Train technology is tremendous and seemingly timeless. Whether passengers or freight, what a great way to get a lot from location to location. Following the signage, we were headed to Michigan Avenue. The exitway passes through what I will call a food court or promenade, which also has ticket booths and information for the South Shore Line and Metra. Up the stairs to the sunlight and hustle and bustle. Take note and a photo of where the station is located so you are clear where to return. Millennium Station is under the Chicago Public Library. Most of the action in downtown Chicago can be found on or near Michigan Avenue. This is the artery that will be our hub and where you will see gobs of tourists crossing at every intersection, having fun going from place to place. I wanted to explore our farthest destination first, the end of Navy Pier. We would walk there and ride the water taxi back for time's sake and the fun of riding the water taxi on the Chicago River. As we blocked around north and mainly eastward, we followed signage to the Navy Pier. Our first aim was Lakeshore Drive. This requires proper navigation as buildings and roadways complicate the matter. There are a half a dozen ways, and frankly, I don't think we took the best or most direct route. It is impossible to walk around downtown Chicago and not constantly be looking skyward at the tremendous architecture. Along our trek, we also saw a Chicago fire station. Remember the Great Chicago Fire? The Navy Pier is easily identified by the Centennial Wheel. After many turns and going through a parking garage under Lakeshore Drive, we reached the Lakeshore Trail, which pedestrians must share the majority of the trail with cyclists. Passing by the Shoreline Sightseeing booth, we spoke with a friendly girl to verify times of the river water taxi and the cost. $10.85 for each of us, one way, and the boat rolls out every 20 minutes. Perfect. We walked along the south side of Navy Pier and saw some fun street art that just screamed out, "Take a picture with me." Note, walk on the south side of Navy Pier to see all the good stuff and the big cruising ships, historic boats, and yachts that go out on Lake Michigan. We took the grand staircase to the upper level to see the amusement park style rides like the teacups and Ferris wheel. An employee is at the kiosk where customers purchase tickets for the rides. This looks like a lot of fun for families. We have ridden the wheels in Niagara Falls, Canada, and in Seattle, so we passed riding this one and kept our expenditure at zero. This looks like a great place to go back to at night. To see it all lit up, we split one of the protein bars at this point because it's going to be a while before we get to the particular hot dog stand I wanted to go to. My goal was not only to walk Navy Pier, but to reach the end. There were two things down there that I wanted to see. This is one, the Bob Newhart statue. How many of you remember who Bob Newhart is? Tell me in the comments below. Sit on the couch next to him and take your photo with the downtown skyline, creating a wonderful background. What is Bob looking at? He's looking at Lake Michigan, but more importantly, he's looking at the anchor to the USS Chicago. The anchor is from the third warship, named after the Windy City. This anchor is dedicated as a memorial to each ship named Chicago and to the thousands of men and women who served their nation in maritime service. We also read a sign about an accident of a training exercise at the pier during World War II. Now, with time clicking away, we will walk around the north side of Navy Pier to get to the water taxi. A new Navy Pier marina is being constructed and looks great. Classy boat. The walk around the pier is an official 1.5-mile fitness trail. We've clocked about 3 miles so far. At the west end of Navy Pier is Polk Brothers Park. The giant orange P is a prime meeting location and often referred to as Meet Me at the P. Learn more about the Polk family and their contribution to the city on the back side of the P. At the Shoreline Sightseeing ticket booth, we purchased tickets to ride the water taxi to Michigan Avenue. The cost was just under $22. So far, we've spent $50 for transportation. Glad we brought waters. The ride on the water taxi is so exhilarating and handy. We will exit the stop at Michigan Avenue, but the taxi continues to Union Station, which is a worthwhile boat ride. One lady on our taxi meant to get on the lake taxi and was a little flustered. One of the deckhands calmed her anxiety and clearly told her how to get back to the boat she wanted to ride. Again, there is a learning curve for public transportation, but we have found that every employee we encountered was kind, helpful, and courteous. Isn't this view of the skyscrapers incredible? What a perfect day. Once we disembarked, we took the Riverside Path to Michigan Avenue to take a few more photos of the Chicago River for you. We walked up a wide stair path where many people were seated enjoying their lunch break. Besides some famous artwork, this is the 463-foot-tall, 36th-floor neo-Gothic Chicago Tribune Tower. You've probably heard of the historic and well-known Chicago Tribune. In 2018, this tower was converted to luxury residences. In the plaza, I spotted these interesting works of art. One of the most interesting statues was one of Jack Brickhouse, the nation's youngest sportscaster, honored by this well-done memorial. But the building that always catches my eye is the Wrigley Building, situated at the base of Chicago's Magnificent Mile. With its southern terminus at the Chicago River, on this strip along North Michigan Avenue, you will find retail, dining, hotels, and tourist attractions. Why can't people control themselves and not destroy property? According to this sign, Chicago's reputation as an architectural center dates back to the turn of the century. This is referring to the 20th century. I find these buildings with their intricate facades captivating. This view of the Chicago Tribune Tower is from the Plaza of the Americas. No chocolate today. We're on a budget, and we've already spent $50. Let's stroll across the DuSable Bridge, which was constructed beginning in 1918 with finishing touches completed 10 years later. Again, let's admire the handsome structures lining the Chicago River. I've got to read this sign to you. The Chicago River. This river, originally flowing eastward from the prairie homelands of the Potawatomi and other Indian tribes into Lake Michigan, linked the waters of the Atlantic, the St. Lawrence, and the Great Lakes with those of the Illinois, the Mississippi, and the Gulf of Mexico. Isn't that intriguing? Well, it is intriguing for me at least. From 1673, commerce and civilization followed this natural waterway from the seaboard to the heart of the continent. The strategic importance to early American development of the junction of the Chicago River and Lake Michigan led to the establishment here of Fort Dearborn and to the founding of the city of Chicago. Stop and read these signs. It's just incredible what you'll learn. This is one of the access points to walk along the pedestrian-packed Chicago Riverwalk. Look at these historic structures. Many have signage that you might want to take time to read, like the one we just read about the river. Chicago was originally named Fort Dearborn, as I just mentioned. The actual fort was destroyed in 1858, and this building was erected in 1922 on the site of Fort Dearborn, here at East Lower Wacker Drive and North Michigan Avenue. The wording etched above the colonnades reads, London Guarantee and Accident Building. See the V serving as a U? The sign above the huge doors is London House. Have you taken a second to subscribe? We are heading south on the west side of Michigan Avenue to get a Chicago dog at Relish Hot Dogs. After we eat and hit a few other spots, we will walk north on Michigan Avenue to see Cloud Gate, probably the most famous piece of public artwork in the Windy City. We are making a loop to end our walk at Millennium Station to catch the 2:45 train back to East Chicago. There are a bunch more sights to see and a couple more dollars to spend. Hang on. I love the green coloring of the 1929 Carbide and Carbon building. How unique and stunning. Want to know why it's green? Well, let's read the sign on the corner of the building. According to popular legend, the architects chose this building's dark green and gold colors based on a gold-foiled champagne bottle seen at an office holiday party. Whether true or not, the building is one of the most distinctive features on the Chicago skyline. I think so. This mural is fascinating. As we pass by the public library, remember this is where we will be returning to go underground to catch the train. Oh, here's another sign. I want to read this one to you also. Jean-Baptiste Beaubien. On this site, then the Lake Shore, Jean-Baptiste Beaubien, Chicago's second civilian, in 1817, built a mansion to which he brought his bride, Josette Laframboise. There are e-bikes all around for those not wanting to walk everywhere, and more notable buildings, of course. My tummy is growling. That protein bar has totally worn off. Michigan Avenue changes from north to south at Madison. At the northwest corner of South Michigan Avenue and East Adams Street, you will find the beginning of the historic Route 66. Get your kicks? Oh, no, let's don't start singing that song. We made it to the well-known Relish Chicago hot dogs, a makeshift building at the southeast corner of South Michigan Avenue and East Jackson Boulevard. We ordered 2 original Chicago dogs, all the way, of course. We still had ice-cold water in our backpack. This will be our last expenditure, $14.50. We made it our goal of spending less than $65. Do you like a Chicago dog, or do you prefer a Seattle dog? Or maybe a James Coney Island chili dog with onions? Frankly, I like them all. I'm a sucker for a good hot dog. Don't tell the girls at Relish Hot Dogs, but I like the one at Gold Coast Dogs a lot better. Right behind the hot dog stand is this head of Sir George Solti. If you know who he is, tell me in the comments below. As we continue walking south, the buildings in this stretch get less impressive, but I do see some gorgeous skyscrapers further south. I like this metro entrance. We're almost at our southernmost walking tour point, and this is the well-known Grant Park and the Clarence F. Buckingham Memorial Fountain, a true Chicago landmark. Being dedicated in 1927, this is one of the older landmarks, and after almost 100 years, it is still capturing everyone's attention. This is one of the world's largest fountains and was built in a wedding cake style and inspired by the Latana Fountain of the Palace of Versailles. Grant Park is positioned between South Michigan Avenue and Queens Landing on Lake Michigan. Time is ticking away. We crossed back in a northwesterly direction to find a hard-working couple reestablishing the gardens at the North President's Court. We were aiming for the 9-foot-tall bronze statue of President Lincoln. It was created by Augustus St. Gaudens. St. Gaudens called this Abraham Lincoln head of state. The sculptor intended to capture Lincoln's loneliness and burden during the tragic Civil War. Do you think the artist was successful? I plan to go to St. Gaudens' workshop in New Hampshire this summer. As a reminder, we are catching the 2:45 train. I've only got 2 or 3 more places on my to-do list. This is the Chicago Art Institute. I'm sure this museum would absorb a full-day adventure. Welcome to Millennium Park. As you can see by the map, there are several key components and a beehive of activity. We cut in at the Crown Fountain. Interesting spot on a hot day. Tons of kids frolicking in the flowing water. There are 2 50-foot tall glass block towers. Faces appear on the panels. Let's press on. This looks like a giant pink papier-mâché something. I think it might be papier-mâché. And this one goes with the pink one? They're called Stonehenge and Dorrit? Read the sign to learn more. Almost as interesting as these sculptures are the pruned London plane trees in the South Bowen Gallery. This is the Great Lawn. Fitting name. At the end is the J. Pritzker Pavilion, home to free concerts and performances. Now, let's enter the 2.5-acre landscape marvel, Lurie Garden. I love purple and green, so this looks lovely to me. Find more than 350 varieties of perennial plants, tall sculpted hedges, and a wooden pedestrian footbridge that usually has shallow water flowing. but not on this day. Simply beautiful. Let's cut through an opening in the hedge to our second to last photo stop. Cloud Gate, or commonly called the Bean, is one of the most fun stops in the city. 66 feet in length, it stands a little over 30 feet high and weighs in at 110 tons. Cloud Gate is one of the largest sculptures in the world. I have just taken you to one of the world's largest fountains, now one of the world's largest sculptures. The Bean's highly polished stainless steel plates provide an amusing and sometimes unflattering mirror. While most people are busy taking pictures of themselves, take a moment to see the distorted mirror image of the city's outstretched skyline. It's also noisy passing underneath the belly of the Bean. Escaping toward the north, let's appreciate the flower gardens and grab our last landmark site. But first, we found these two interesting girls. They offered to let me hold one of their friends. I politely declined as I told them, "You girls are silly. Would you have held one of these snakes?" Sorry, Debbie. I must take 30 paces to get a picture of the Wrigley Square Millennium Monument. The pretty monument includes a list of the founders of Millennium Park. I am grateful for people who have the insight and the financial ability to establish public places like the ones you have seen in this video that endure for decades. Okay, gotta grab a few more shots of these skyscrapers before we go underground to catch that train. It's 2:33. We've got to get through that concourse and to the train. Will we make it in time? Yes. I am not sad it's over. I'm happy it happened. The same train attendant as on our ride into town was standing at the end of the platform to direct passengers to the correct train. It was nice to see her smiling face again. All aboard. Just under 4 hours was our goal. 10:55 to 2:33. You do the math. And we spent just under $65. We made that goal too. The train was much more crowded as commuters were starting to exit the Windy City. Remember how I mentioned that there is a learning curve to public transportation? One of two ladies riding together and seated a couple rows in front of us were asking the man across from them some questions, and he had on headphones, so she began to speak loudly. She was wondering how they would know when to get off the train. When would she know that she was at the East Chicago station? I spoke up and said, "Girlfriend, get off when we do. Follow us." At the station stop before ours, I spoke out again and said, "This is our stop, ladies." We made it back safe and sound. I hope you had a good time today. Let me know in the comments. Ugly shoes on the ground on a terrific urban attraction adventure and classic road trip. Hey, please subscribe. Check out my playlist on other urban attractions. Cities can be a lot of fun.